Bob Stefanowski led a hard-fought battle for the governor's office that came up short last fall. He promised to get rid of Connecticut's income tax, a promise some critics said was impossible to keep. But since his loss, Stefanowski has been more visible than ever, leading the anti-tax and anti-tolls movement. Bob Stefanowski is with us today. You know, we've seen more of you now, I think, than during the actual campaign. You do know that Ned Lamont won, right?
I guess so, yeah.
Somebody told you.
Yeah. By the way, it's great seeing the picture of my father right there. Thanks for including that.
Yeah, of course. Why so visible now?
Well, look, we won 46% of the vote. We won 124 of 169 cities. So if you think about that, John, 46% of the people in Connecticut wanted lower taxes, they wanted less spending, they wanted pro-business policies, they wanted control over their schools, and Governor Lamont has come in and done exactly the opposite. He's raised spending. He talked about regionalizing schools before some terrific grassroots efforts stopped that. He's raising taxes, and the biggest one is tolls. He's putting up tolls where a majority of the people in Connecticut don't want that to happen. So I owe it to the 650,000 people that voted for me to stay vocal.
Hey, why didn't we see you more during the campaign, though?
You know, going through the campaign as a first-time candidate, you learn a lot. In fact, if you look at the governorship, the last 4 governors of the state of Connecticut did not win their first time around. So you learn a lot going through it. I think there's 2 things that jump out at me. Is one, I should have been out there more, particularly in Fairfield County, which we can talk about, and then the importance of a ground game. I think the Democrats have a very good machine around getting the vote out. They've got some built-in constituencies with state employee unions, but we as Republicans need to do a better job of getting that vote out.
You know, I asked J.R. Romano, the state Republican Party chairman, a couple of weeks ago to sort of armchair quarterback the 2018 election.
Sure.
Here's what he had to say.
You know, I think Bob's a great man. I know that he has personally taken the loss very difficult, which is why he is continuing to work with the Republican Party, working with local RTCs. You know, but it was a tough fight. I mean, Bob was you know, there's no ifs, ands about it, that, you know, he was underfunded. You know, he's raising money in late August, which is a difficult place to be in.
So I got to ask, you know, there are a lot of rich Republicans in Connecticut. Why is it so hard for Republicans to raise money here?
I don't think it's hard. I think it's when you compare what we were up against this time. Governor Lamont, who inherited a lot of money, was basically able to cut checks at will, 15 to 20 million. So it's not, John, that we weren't able to raise the money. It's the amount of time that I had to spend to do it relative to Governor Lamont, who didn't have to spend any time doing it. That allowed him to get out there more. And again, to the earlier point, if there's one thing I could change, it would be getting out there more, because I think television's great, you know, commercials are great, but actually seeing a person, touching them, talking to them, I think you get a lot different impression. I got a lot of positive feedback after I met with people that, gee, you know, I like you a lot more after I met you than before.
You know, your big message was eliminate the state income tax. You know, some of your critics kind of pounced on that. They said this guy's a one-trick pony. Do you regret not fleshing out, I guess, more issues and just laser focusing on that?
You know what I regret that we weren't able to do is keep the campaign focused on Connecticut. Governor Lamont did a pretty effective job of talking about Washington. And I think people are now seeing the consequences of that, where, yeah, maybe we sent a message to Washington, but the first policy out of the gate is let's regionalize schools. So I think, you know, if I had it to do over again, I'd try to keep the discussion more focused on the things that matter to Connecticut, because these elections have consequences. We're seeing it right now in this budget and a lot of the liberal policies that are coming out of Hartford right now.
You know, this was a nasty fight just to get the Republican nomination. I mean, you won a 5-way race with just 29% of the vote. You know, when we talked to J.R. Romano, he said, you know, I would really prefer to see some sort of runoff system. Would you like to see that too?
Well, I think having 12 candidates in a primary is tough. Part of that is the public financing, which is, if you can raise that money, I think there's an attitude sometimes of why not run. And I don't think it's right that taxpayers have to pay for campaigns. So I think it hurt us a little bit in the primary, where we did go after each other a little bit. Governor Lamont did not have that problem as well. He came out pretty early, picked an LG. I also think we should be able to pick our LG before the primary. I think it would be great to run as a ticket as opposed to having to run independently.
All right, last question. We're almost out of time.
Yeah.
Your future plans. You going to run again?
I honestly don't know. 3 years is a long time, John. A lot of things can change, but I am going to stay active. Again, I owe it to the 46% people that voted for me. Governor Lamont won with a minority. He won with 49% of the vote. So there's a lot of people out there that don't agree with what's going on, and I'm going to stay vocal, and I'm going to try to influence policy where I can.
All right, Bob Stefanowski, as visible as ever. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me on, John.